CD 咗好多啊！有佢咯，條佬嚟估啦。
We sort of work on a philosophy of the process of making a film is 3 separate stages. And this is Johnnie To's sort of, what's the word? What he lives by in terms of when we're working on a film. Number 1 is the writing. And number 2 is the directing. And number 3 is the editing. The 3 are joined together and they must work together, but these are the 3 main stages. So when we work, obviously the writers have got to start first. And however, at Milky Way, the writing never really stops during the entire process. It's a little unusual, but this is the auteur style that Milky Way is, and because of the way the company is arranged and the fact that they own a lot of their own equipment, they have the luxury of not shooting for a couple of days because they need to talk about the script. Often they will shoot a scene which has only been written the night before. So there is a lot of creative manipulation, much more than a conventional Hollywood situation where you have a complete script and everyone has the script, and if there's a revision, everybody is given a revision 3 days before. Milky Way doesn't work that way. It can be a bit chaotic. So, but I think creatively we end up with perhaps some more interesting material because everybody keeps working. Okay, so let's take a look at some footage here and talk a little bit about, firstly, let's take a fairly simple scene, and I will play the scene through, and then maybe we're going to try to change a couple of the cuts to perhaps change the feeling of the scene, and I'll explain why we want to do that in a little bit. So this scene, just let me get to the beginning here. For those who haven't seen the film, this lady is one of the main characters in the story. She's a bank. Her job is basically to sell investments, and she has witnessed a crime. And she, in this particular scene, she has a choice. Some money has been stolen, except for strange circumstances, she has 5 million Hong Kong dollars stuffed in her drawer that belongs to somebody else. But that somebody else has been killed. And she is the only one who knows that she has 5 million Hong Kong dollars. So she has a choice in this scene as to admit that she has the money and be honest, or tell a small lie and live happily ever after on the money. So in this particular scene, she's being interviewed by a police officer who's come to investigate this old man who has been killed, who actually owned the $5 million. $5 million he took away, $5 million he left with her. I won't explain why for now, but she has $5 million bucks. So I just want to take a look at one little section here, this part.
佢臨走嘅時候帶走咗1000萬。
係。
This part. So we've played this scene very, like the cop does not get it. She says yes, and he says thank you very much, and he leaves. If we had that other scene where the cops actually figure out that she did something with the money, then perhaps we would have made this scene a little different in the editing. So I'm going to just make some manipulations here and see if we can change that. So I just opened up one of these bins that I talked about before, this guy here. These are the raw shots for this scene. So you can see we've got his shot, we've got another angle over here. depending on, sometimes they will shoot the whole scene, sometimes they will just shoot inserts or pieces. So let's have a look at how he reacts, just looking at his shots.
走嘅時候帶走咗1000萬。
係。
唔該晒，陳小姐。
Okay, so there's not much reaction there. It's quite quick. The only thing that I have is this. That reaction. Why doesn't she reply? So if we look at that now, in this cut, we go straight to that right now. But maybe if we go to her first and then go back to him, we can create an element of suspicion. So let's just try that. Maybe look at the other take of her. Maybe there's something better.
有需要嘅，我哋警方差唔多㗎啦。佢臨走嘅時候攞走咗1000萬。
係。
Just compare it with this one. I like this one better. Obviously, she does kind of a little eye thing, so it's maybe better to use this and not use the other take. But maybe...
佢臨走嘅時候攞走咗1000萬。
係。
This one, she looks more nervous for the high, which is yes. Let me just go into another mode here so I can see the waveform. All you young people, I'm a master, see, so I'm an old guy. So for me, the computer stuff is a little bit... I see the young guys with this and they don't even touch this thing anymore. They're like... But sometimes it doesn't matter. It's technique. Is how you get there. It doesn't really matter as long as you get there. Okay, so what have we got now?
佢臨走嘅時候帶走咗1000萬。
係。
唔該晒，陳小姐。
Okay, that's good. This is too tight on the end. He reacts too quickly. He's meant to be a little bit suspicious. So let's give him a little more breathing space. And obviously we can play around and tweak these cuts. I won't bother to do it now, but to manipulate more. But.
係。
唔該晒，陳小姐。
So that's just an example of how we can take something that wasn't meant to be there and actually make it. As I say, editing is the last rewrite. So this is a classic example of that situation. So let's take a look at another section in the film. In particular, I wanted to... This particular film was essentially shot as 3 separate stories. It was always the intention not to let the script get bogged down during the shooting and to actually shoot 3 separate stories, and then we would figure out how to put it together in the editing room. So, and the film was shot over several years. The story with this lady, we call her Teresa, this was shot first. And 1 year later, the second story, which involves this character here, was shot. So the original sequence with this lady had very little connection. And the 3 stories within the film are related but not intertwined. So one of the things we had to figure out in the editing room is how to put the 3 together into one film. So we went through about 8 structural cuts to get to the final film. And quite a bit of material got lost. And obviously when you join sequences together, you have to figure out how to intercut them, so you will end up losing some shots. Particularly in this film, because there was no script that said cut from this scene to this scene to this scene, or this shot to this shot. So everything was manufactured in the editing room. So let's take a look at this next sequence. And then I'm going to sort of go into how we got to it.
勁啊，炮哥仔！而家個市反彈咗成千幾點啊！如果而家平倉咧，你賺成300幾個噶啦，70%噶啦，平唔平倉？仲有幾耐到4點？仲有15分鐘到啦，買落去！梗係買落去啦！仲升緊啊！勁啊！早死啦！
This obviously intercuts between several of the stories, and this is one of the points in the film where we merge the stories together. And we're using this lovely piece of music to make that montage. Okay. We had to make some choices when we were working on this sequence to lose some material. The Teresa sequence, I can pull up here. As you can see, this is all of her storyline. And if you look in this initial edit, we have this entire piece. Another piece of music, but very classic, artsy piece. But you can see obviously some of the shots in the other sequence, but a lot of the shots had to be thrown out in order to create the montage that we created. So the question is how do you decide what you're going to throw out and what you're going to keep? The main point is that she's going to steal the money. That's the choice. So in a world where we have to make the film this long, we can't have it this long. We made the choice to essentially use the smaller pieces that we use in this montage, which is this particular shot here. This shot. And then one shot earlier where she opens the drawer at the beginning and takes this piece out. Just another piece in here that you can see. This is the complete assembly of this sequence where he goes into this office, played as one piece. I didn't play this in the cut, but we can see from this point on.
升，勁啊！嗱，我哋講個順字嘅，手續就唔做啦，400萬揸，4點鐘計數，政府嫁俾你。好。
So again, you can see all the shots that are incorporated into that montage, and obviously a lot of extra shots that we had to cut out. But this is playing as one scene. So when we are working on the film, we're working on the film in scenes. And the first cut, you always know the first cut is not going to be the final cut. There's going to be many other cuts. So when we're working, we're not too concerned about making everything perfect. We're concerned about putting the story together so we can see what footage that we have, so we can choose what to cut out. If we go back to the montage, you can see that we cut away to his partner in the car, and we're using that juxtaposition of the two. So they, at the same time as one is crying, so that's going down, and now we cut to him. So they're parallel stories. So we're intercutting the parallel stories. So this is a very important aspect of editing, is when you get into this situation of multiple threads and multiple stories, is how do you join them together? You can manipulate and create a completely different story just by changing edits and by selecting the pieces that you want and selecting the essence of the shot. What is the most important piece of that shot for the story that you're trying to tell? And sometimes the story you're trying to tell is not the same story that's in the script. This is the beauty of editing and why editing is the last rewrite. One thing before we start asking questions, I just want to mention, I could carry on doing this all night. Because once you get into this stuff, like even sitting down here now, you know, I'm excited by a new version. I can make this tighter, I can edit the music down. I could spend the next 6 hours doing this, and then my wife will be very, very angry. Editing is a very bad thing for marriages. It really is, because you get stuck into this stuff. And once you get into that mode, you don't want to get out. Because when you lose the concentration, when you get in the flow, it's very difficult to stop. Because it may not be there tomorrow morning. So I went through one wife this way. Just a warning for you out there. The wife is very important, or husband. On digital films, now it almost becomes expected that you're going to do color, like a one-light color correction inside the computer. So now I'm not only just dealing with cuts, I'm dealing with actually color correcting every shot. And when it comes to visual effect shots, If the producers don't see, a green screen comp, a composite shot inside the edit, they're like, well, why didn't you do the effects? So this machine has become not just an editing machine anymore. So my life has got a lot harder, to be honest. By the time it gets in the cinema, all the work that the editor does, the temp effects, the temp sound effects, the temp music track, it all gets thrown out. So if I spend 30 or 40% of my time doing something that is going to be replaced by somebody else, why am I doing it? For presentation? So there's a lot of wasted time with the technology because we can do it, because we can do a mix. I can sit here and this piece of music I can put in and I can mix it. And yeah, it'll sound great, but then I'm going to go remix it anyway, so why am I bothering? I think the tendency is for real, when you put the digital equipment into a real filmmaker's hands, who has the discipline of film, the result can be incredible. But for the most part, what I find is even experienced directors who shoot a lot of film, you give them a digital camera and everybody forgets. They say, oh, we don't have to buy the film, it's free. So we can just keep shooting. But you know what happened? What happens is that the 60-day schedule now becomes 75 days because they spend all the time shooting all these takes. Yeah, they overshoot. I did a film recently in China, and I won't say who the director is, but I thought going in, and one of the reasons I did the film was because I knew the director, and I said, well, there's no way he's going to go crazy because he's a very disciplined guy. When he's shooting on film, I mean, literally, as soon as the camera flash stops flickering, the actors are acting. That was the way he was. Suddenly, he has digital film. He's on digital, and he's doing 14 takes. And I said to him, why are you doing 14? He says, because it's digital, it's free. I'm saying, but Chung, you took 75 days to shoot it. You should have shot this film in 60. So overshooting is a terrible thing. It doesn't save you money. Everyone says it saves you money. Digital doesn't save you any money. I brought this case out for a reason. I travel around the world. This is my editing room. In 1998, when I would go on location with an Avid, but the equipment was 700 kilos. And now today I can do it with that. So technology in that way is fantastic. A hard drive, I'm editing this off a USB hard drive that you can buy for $100 US dollars. So in terms of the technology, the ability for filmmakers to go out and do their thing, I mean, obviously it's much more affordable if you have the discipline. But if you don't, it's like I say, it's a lot of people think you're going to save money, but you don't, unless you have the discipline. He just needs to tell me, this is the feeling I want. And then, I go off and do my thing and then show him a cut, and then he will respond to that cut. Either like, you didn't get it, or I want more of that, or try to focus the attention on this character more than the other character. This is the kind of conversations that we have. So it's not as difficult as it might seem, but I say it's unusual. I mean, some directors will sit themselves here for 14 hours a day and they won't leave me alone. And every cut is going to be a frame here, a frame there. I mean, it's not easy to work that way, but this is the business, the many different styles and different people. For me, I like to just, let's talk about it, tell me what you want, and then go away, go have dinner with your your kids and your family, and come back tomorrow, and let me deal with it, and I'll show you something, and then we can mess around. But this is just different styles and how different people work. Ultimately, obviously, in terms of the general structure, he has the final say. In terms of getting there, how we get there, that's up to me. And in terms of the fine cut, I do the fine cut. So after we get the structure of the film down, then I will do the fine cut. And he often will not even look at the fine cut. So, but I'm talking about, for example, this sequence here that we took today to a certain point. I would show this to him, and he would say, okay, I like it. So now I will go spend another 3 hours on this, and I will, adjust and trim it and play around with it some more. So that the structural cut is Johnny, the fine cut is me. A lot of people ask me that question, is how the hell do you edit a film that you don't understand? And I'm terrible with languages, is why I'm not speaking to you in French. I learned French in school till I was 16 or 17 years old, and I can understand some French, but I'm not a linguist. And I live in Thailand. My wife is Thai. I don't speak any Thai. I work on Cantonese movies. I don't speak any Cantonese. And I work on mainland Chinese movies, mostly Mandarin, and I don't speak Mandarin either. But what I do know is rhythm, and I know pace. And all languages have a rhythm and a pace. French would be very difficult for me to cut, because the structure of the tonal languages is such that once you know the rhythm, even if you don't know exactly what they're saying, you can still cut a scene. And obviously I do work with the translation, and as I said, these little red dots that are on here are my translation locators. So I do know what people are saying. I know that the director has selected the take that he wants because of the performance, and I know the performance is good, so I'm not so concerned about finding the best performance. If I'm working on an English film, and I've got 6 takes, I will start to look at all the takes to try and analyze for the best performance. On these films, I won't do that. Okay, I guess we're fini. Thank you.